Joining us now, as promised, is Congressman Tom Cole, Republican from the great state of Oklahoma, member of the House Appropriations and Budget Committees. Hello, Congressman.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Good to have you back. Okay, so your colleague Elijah Cummings seems to be leaving out a little fact here. Of course, he's referring to the fact that the House voted this week to hold Lois Lerner in contempt of Congress. He's leaving out the legal problem here that she made an opening statement, and many believe that she, gave up her right to plead the Fifth.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, obviously she hasn't been stripped of her right to assert the Fifth Amendment because she's done it, and that decision will be made by a court of law. There's a difference as to whether it was done appropriately or not. Right. So she's still, quote, got the right, hasn't been stripped of anything. Two, you're precisely right. You don't come in and make a long statement and say all the reasons why you're not guilty of something or that you did everything, and then just from the very beginning say, hey, I think that whatever I say might be incriminating, and plead the Fifth, basically. She didn't do that. So we'll have that question settled. But none of this should obscure the fact that, number one, why would anybody that hadn't done something wrong, that this is, we're talking about the administration of federal law, be worried about this. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Two, look, the evidence here is overwhelming that we have an extraordinary number of Tea Party related and 9/12 and Patriot groups that were targeted, and some of them chilled. Some of the most compelling testimony I've heard have been from members who actually have people come to them and say, I can't do anything politically. I'm not allowed to do anything politically. We've been waiting 3 years on the IRS. We give up. That sort of thing. I mean, they were literally chilling political activity and free speech. And this idea that it was somehow done equally to both sides is just sheer nonsense. So, again, there's a lot to answer for. Did it go to the White House? I don't know. Was it, just a bureaucracy run amok, or people within the bureaucracy taking what they thought were cues from the administration? Perhaps. But the point is, we've got a senior official in the United States government, in front of an oversight committee that refuses to testify and give them the information they need to do their job. And their job is to protect the rights of Americans to exercise speech freely.
All right, let's move on to. By the way, what's going to happen next? I mean, she's held in contempt. I know that there have been reports that the Congress could actually put her in jail, in the House jail, which I don't even think is in the House. But I mean, short of that, I mean, Eric Holder's been held in contempt, and that's going to go nowhere. Is it up to the Justice Department now to follow up on this Lois Lerner charge?
It is. Although the House can as I understand it, and again, I'm not an attorney, not an expert in this area.
Nor am I.
Can push ahead and take this into court themselves, and I suspect that's what's going to happen. You'd hope at some point she decides to just tell us what she wants immunity from, then we can decide whether or not she gets it, and then if she gets it, she can testify openly. But again, I'll have to leave that to the people who are on the committee and know more about it than me.
All right, what do you think is going to happen with the Select Committee? John Boehner announcing the committee members. Of course, he announced Trey Gowdy from South Carolina, former prosecutor, as the chairman. He's now announced the other members of the committee. Are the Democrats going to play? I've heard everything from no to the suggestion that they have one person there, basically because you can't leave, Hillary and all the other people who will testify from the administration just in the hands of the Republicans. I've heard warnings from everyone from George Will to Al Sharpton that the Republicans better not overplay their hand here, that somehow it could backfire on them. What's your take on all this?
Well, let's go through a series of things. What the Democrats do, I think, is important. Frankly, I think they ought to participate. I think it's actually to their political advantage to participate. The majority of American people already believe that this needs additional investigation, that answers have not been satisfactory, and I think the failure to show up is not going to help them with the majority of people. The people that think it's going to be a, quote, partisan witch hunt are already there, and I think to not show up is to let the majority conclude there's something to hide. Second, assuming they do show up, I do think there's a special burden on the Republicans. We've got, if this becomes what appears to be a kangaroo court, then I think that will backfire and will hurt us. If it looks like we're trying to exploit a national tragedy instead of get to the bottom of it, learn lessons, hold people accountable if necessary, then that will hurt. Now, I don't think that's likely to happen with the group that we have. I thought Trey Gowdy, who is both knowledgeable about this, and has a lawyer and a prosecutor sense of what's appropriate process, was a really good choice. I'm really pleased with the other members of the committee. There's some really thoughtful people. Susan Brooks is a personal favorite of mine, a former U.S. attorney and with a vast experience. I think Peter Roskam's really good, but they're Martha Roby I've worked with on my committee. They're just all fine people and I think thoughtful members. So the composition has been very good. I personally, and this is only my thoughts, I would make sure, I don't expect this investigation to be completed before the election. I hope it's not. You got to go where the facts take you, but I would try to avoid looking like I was trying to impact 2014. And honestly, I would hope it doesn't drag into 2016 too long. I mean, it needs to be professional, but we need to be careful not to overreach. Need to any undecided, fair-minded person looking at it would say, "Hey, this was well done. This was appropriate. We learned some things we didn't know. We asked some questions that shouldn't be asked." I would also say, if I were advising the individual members, having watched the Senate committee, usually the less you say when you ask the question, the better off you are. Don't give a lot of histrionic speeches and lead into a question and eat up the clock. Just sit there and ask some straight, direct questions to whoever you bring in, whether it's the local people that were on the ground, whether it's the people in the State Department chain of command, whether you go all the way up to Secretary Clinton or into the White House. Just be professional, be concise. I sort of think Trey Gowdy will do that, and people like Susan Brooks, who's a trained courtroom attorney, right. They'll just make the case. But again, there is some risk here, and I think we would be foolish to not acknowledge that.
And is it particularly, they need to be particularly careful with the way they question Hillary Clinton, do you believe?
Well, I think they need to be particularly fair. Look, I don't think, with all due respect to the United States Senate, I don't think they did a very good job of asking questions when she was there last time. And to me, there's three areas you want to focus on. I mean, number one, we had lots of warning that this was a dangerous place, that we needed additional security. How much of that got to the Secretary's desk has never been clear to me, and whether or not, if it didn't get there, that's a problem. I mean, that should have been made at the highest level. We got the ambassador asking for additional protection. Number two, look, this is an area of the world that we should have known something was liable to happen on a day that was likely to happen, and it's in a region where we have lots of military assets. This is the Mediterranean. This is not, the South Pole. So why weren't our military assets better distributed and ready, and could we have responded? If not, that suggests the preparation wasn't good. And finally, we clearly weren't honest with the American people after the fact. The administration wasn't honest. It knew it was a terrorist attack at the highest level, and yet we've got both the Secretary and the Ambassador to the United Nations telling us things that were not true and that high-level people knew were not true.
Right, absolutely. Well said. And they'd be very wise to have a meeting with you, with the whole committee, before they begin. I couldn't have said it better myself, and very impressive advice. I hope they do listen to you, sir. And thank you for joining us, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Hey, my privilege. Thank you.
Take care. That's Congressman Tom Cole, Republican from Oklahoma, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Now, all good advice, all right on target. And I know that with Trey Gowdy and the background of Susan Brooks and the others, they'll do a good job. Media will spin it, but they'll do a good job. We're coming back with the Malzberg panel.